Hello again and welcome to Operations Research and Linear Programming with SPICE, and we are looking at reduced costs. So just to remind you about the rather convoluted definition of a reduced cost. So the reduced cost UI, it's associated with the coefficient CI in the LP, so CI is the ith component of the objective function, and it's related to the decision variables. So if xi at the optimum, so xi star is not equal to 0, then the reduced cost is 0. And then the other way around, if xi at the optimum is 0, then ui is the amount the ci has to improve, reduce or increase to make xi star non-zero. And to understand this rather convoluted definition better, we had this problem 7.10 of the Bennett-Gesserit conscript training. And the idea there was that this was the problem 7.1, where we solved this composition of the rapid deployment force, and it turned out that the Atreides conscripts, there were none of them in this rapid deployment force. And this means that the Atreides conscripts are not influential enough to be included there. Now we have the Bennett-Gesserit. They have promised to teach them the Weirding Way fighting technique that would increase their efficiency or influence. And now the question is, how much should this Weirding Way improve? That is, in this case, increase the efficiency of Atreides conscripts in order to make it reasonable to have them in the rapid deployment force. And yes, let's solve this now. And the solution is given here in 7.14, Bennett-Gesserit conscript training. So this is, you can find this, download this M file. It's called conscript.m. You can download it here from the course home directory if you like. So this is www.uvasa.fi/tilde note the missing n /spiceor. So there you can find all the lecture notes and M files, and actually even these videos related to this course. Of course, there are links from the Moodle page also. So here's the solution, and this is yes, you can probably, if you look at it, you see that it is pretty much copy pasted the jihad.m file. So that's the solution for the 7.1 and which we are now considering more closely. So I don't think that there is really much reason to go through this beginning. So this is copy pasted from the jihad.m file. So the only difference here is, it's the very short difference. So here we ask the solution for the Muad'Dib's jihad problem, and note that we ask this E for the error number just in order to get a handle of this extra. So that's the struct that gives us additional information like the reduced costs. So we have used this already for the not reduced cost, but the other sensitivity parameters called the shadow prices or dual variables or marginal costs. So now we ask the reduced costs, and they are in the field called red costs, like reduced costs. And here this is completely unnecessary, but I do it just to emphasize that I will use the symbol U for the reduced costs, and maybe it's a shorthand notation basically. So I take the extra struct variable and its field red costs and assign the value to U. And then nothing else happens here. At output I just ask the reduced costs, U, and indeed, if you do this with Octave, well, we haven't used Octave for a while, so let's do it. So I start Octave. Let me try to make the window so that it's not behind my camera view. Okay, here it is. And as always, when we start, we should have a correct directory. So you can change the directory here, or you can change it here, or you can use the cd command. I use the cd command cd for change directory. So now the directory is /home/tsottinen, so I will go to tsottinen work and teaching and spicy OR. Now it's the correct directory. I go to the editor just to check that everything is okay. So I have here conscript.m. Maybe it's this. Yes, let's see. It is. So I'll just run the script normal way. I'm typing the name without the extension, and yes, it gives me U is 0 minus 7.50. So what is the interpretation? What does it mean? So these are now related to these decision variables. And remember, the decision variables were first was the Fedaykin, then there were the conscripts, and then there were the Sardaukar. And the first and third one, the reduced cost, are zeros, and this indeed is related to the fact that we are actually having this first variable, that was the Fedaykin, and the third, that was the Sardaukar. We had them in the rapid deployment force. So these decision variables were not zero. The second one for the Atreides conscripts, however, that was zero. So we didn't have any Atreides conscripts there. And now the question is why? And one way of looking at it, the reason was that they were not influential enough. The influence was just 1. And now the question is how much the influence should be improved in order to have them there. Well, this is precisely what the reduced cost answers. So it says that, okay, never mind the minus sign here. It is related to the fact whether it's minimization or maximization. And some people use slightly different convention, whether it's minus or plus. I mean, in practice, you should always understand what does the improve mean. Minus or plus should be clear. So in this, it should be clear that 7.5 is the amount we have to increase CI, in this case C2, in order to make the Atreides conscripts influential enough, efficient enough to have them in the rapid deployment force. Okay, so apparently the solution is that the original efficiency or influence was 1, so we have to increase it by 7.5 points to 8.5, and then it would make sense to have the Atreides conscripts in the rapid deployment force. And going back to the original problem, so remember we were discussing or maybe starting negotiations with the Bene Gesserit, whether to have buy or make a contract with them to have the weirding way fighting technique training for the Atreides conscripts. And this result tells us that this weirding way fighting technique should increase the Atreides conscript influence or efficiency. I apparently used them as synonyms here. It should increase them that at least 7.5 points. If it does not increase that much, increases only less, then we would not use Atreides conscripts anyway, so there is no point in this context at least to introduce the weirding way fighting technique. And if it, on the other hand, increases the 7.5 points or more, then it would make sense. And so we can start our negotiations with the Bene Gesserit. Alright, that was what the reduced costs are all about with this longish example. Then we have a couple of exercises related to reduced costs, and exercise 7.15. Well, this is what we discussed in a remark. Let's have a remark here. So this is related to this remark 7.11, and the breaking point inequality 7.13. So in this exercise I ask you to actually solve the problem that actually was solved just above here with the answer that 7.5 should be the delta 2. Find the delta 2 by using this for loop, as in remark 7.11 was explained, and then compare the solution to this solution 7.14, so which is this yellow box here, and are the solutions the same? If yes, why? And if no, if not, why? So there could be some difference there. And then what is the reason for this difference? Which one is wrong? Or are they both wrong? Or if they are the same, then apparently they should be the correct solution. Alright, then there is a final exercise in this chapter 7.16. So this is our favorite, I suppose, problem, Muad'Dib bakery 5.1, and its solution 5.7. There it turned out that the Harkonnen cakes are not produced at all. So it's a similar situation as this jihad problem. So apparently this means that the Harkonnen cakes are not price enough. We should increase their price to a correct price, correct meaning that with this price it will make sense us to bake them, assuming that everything else stays the same, which is realistic or not, depends, you never know. And then the question is, what would be this correct price? So how much you should increase the price of Harkonnen cake so that it would make sense for the Muad'Dib bakery to make them. And I mean, it should be clear by now that the problem is about reduced cost related to the Harkonnen cake. Alright, then finally let us end this section and the whole chapter about similar what and why for the reduced costs as we had previously for the shadow prices. So here it is, a relatively short remark where we just kind of recall things. And yes, there is a new point also, the last point. So the reduced costs, they are related to the objective function coefficients Ci, and they are denoted usually by Ui. Just notation here. Also the reduced costs, like the shadow prices, they are related to the nebulous shadow problem we have not studied yet. And this shadow problem is also called the dual problem, and we will later, actually in the next chapter, we will see how they are related in this duality. And finally, this is maybe a new point, but something that should be more or less clear now if you think about it. So the reduced costs, they are also called opportunity costs. And what is the opportunity here and what is the cost of it? So one way of looking at it, that suppose that we are given the forced opportunity, there are no problems, there are only opportunities, that we have to produce 1 unit of Xi, say the Harkonnen cake or the Atreides conscripts. that otherwise we wouldn't do at all. So what does this mean? It means that this opportunity will cost us, since our objective must decrease if this is a maximization to a suboptimal value, because at the optimum we are not producing them. Now we have to produce one unit, so our objective cannot increase. The only thing that can do that, we can do worse. And indeed, this would mean that one way of thinking it's an LP, we have an additional constraint, the forced opportunity. And the optimal solution is going to get worse, and then the question is, how much worse will it get? And yes, you guessed it, I hope, that the decrease in the objective value is the opportunity cost UI associated with the decision variable xi. Okay, that's all for now. See you in next videos. Bye.